I, 32 male, were married to my spouse, 30 girl, for 5 years, and it feels like within the final year she's turned out to be a complete stranger. We had been both installed when we met, and at the start it felt like we shared the same values. I went to an alternate school and learned a very technical activity. I worked access degree jobs before I proved myself and built a recognition in coding to the point in which my references trump my education. My wife has a graduate degree and works in a management role. This created a chunk of what I thought turned into friendly anxiety at the time. Early on, I bitched about center management, seeing them as roadblocks between me and completing tasks. My wife saw middle management as important for directing personnel and assets. Individually, I used to be caught with an awful string of middle managers who idea code developers have been modular and replaceable. They set unreasonable closing dates, promised functions to clients, and created scope creep. Whenever I advised her about the following boneheaded component my supervisor instituted, she constantly took his aspect, announcing, "Notice she in no way met him. He sees stuff you don't." After about a 12 months of dating, I found out to prevent telling her approximately my day at work if it did not contain days off or raises. I usually felt like she resented the fact that I didn't cross lower back to high school for a 4 to 12 months graduate diploma. She pushed about it early on, earlier than marriage, but once I broke down the loans and debt, she dropped it. She became tremendously debt unfastened whilst we married, as turned into I. As I said, we have been pretty close in earning energy as well. Approximately 2 years in the past, I commenced working for an organization that had an owner who talked to me at once. He saw value in me and my capacity. I now make 50% greater than my spouse, and my supervisor is a guy who works properly with me. Whilst no longer a technical lead, he embodies what a scrum grasp must be. I would say he knows the way to stay out of my way, however that makes it sound opposed. He's a top-notch supervisor. The primary 4 years of marriage went awesome common. I didn't complain about managers from paintings, and she didn't push me to unload heaps into a chunk of paper and debt. We had fun, went on date nights several instances a month, shared pursuits, cooked collectively, read books together, and watched films together. While the first lockdown hit, we each worked from domestic. Our residence is surely high quality, with 3 spare bedrooms for if we ultimately had youngsters. One was already converted into a workplace for me, and whilst the lockdown started out, we transformed the second into an office for her. We both commuted, but we each had very extraordinary philosophies approximately it. I would rise up, make breakfast, bathe, shave, dress in shape, then walk into my home workplace. I hate suits and ties by means of the way, but it does position me in the intellectual nation of, okay, that is paintings time. My spouse, however, rolls off the bed, eats breakfast, brushes her tooth, places on a tea blouse and sweatpants, and is going in her office with the iPad to play Sweet Crush between emails. I guess I see it as paintings from home, and she sees it as paintings from home. I digress. It's the most eldritch issue, how proximity can create distance. She has numerous meetings in afternoon, and I will tell because she maintains her door extensive open, and I'm able to pay attention to them. I have 1 meeting a day, a scrum, and it's short. I close my door for mine. 5 months in the past, she stated she felt insulted that I closed my door for the daily scrum. I defined that it became for peace and to maintain my mind centered on work. She said she felt like I was hiding something. I tried to keep up our pastimes collectively. However, she brushed it off, announcing, "We see every other all day, so why must I?" I need to have pressed, but I failed to. I handled the lockdown as transient, and maybe I shouldn't have. It were given honestly awful when her enterprise instituted a partial office reopening. She jumped at the risk to be a part of the 50% of the employer returned in a rearranged office to permit social distancing. I don't blame her. I pass over running at the workplace too. However, my company hasn't unfolded the workplaces yet, and as long as I have access to my improvement environment, it sincerely is not wished. I assume several of her other co-people got into her head. She would stay after paintings to hang around with them and feature liquids at a co-employee's region. I pressed and desired to recognize greater. However, she was secretive and protected. She became colder and colder too. It felt like I had a roommate and not a wife at that. She positioned her antique iPad at the table and stated, "Factor, final month on a weekend." She put her old iPad at the table and said, "Are you able to wipe this? I need to gift this to my niece." I shrugged. I regularly do this kind of thing for the circle of relatives and didn't think a great deal about it. Off she went to another employer amassing, and then I switched on the iPad. Maybe my spouse's lifestyles was becoming so brazen. Maybe she notioned I wouldn't take a look at it and just do a manufacturing unit reset. The point is, I checked it and saw her messaging app, photographs, films, IMs along with her boss. They have been having an affair for 2 months. I cannot describe the feeling in my veins. It changed into like my blood became to ice. It reminded me of the scene in Equilibrium, wherein the polygraph flatlined. I copied the entirety, packaged it into cloud storage I use for development tasks, break-free work, and started out seeking out an attorney. I failed to confront in the beginning due to the fact I wasn't positive what I might do. The new sensation in my frame felt like I used to be each numb and taking walks through water. She didn't observe or did not care. Via that factor, we were already dead bedroom. I contacted an attorney, and he wanted to keep investigating and me to maintain my mouth close. He advised I get a private investigator and cautioned a great one. For the remaining 4 weeks, we were collecting evidence, and he was preparing the record for divorce. "Be patient," he kept telling me. The day prior to this, my legal professional informed me he had the submitting almost ready. Our nation is at fault, and the PI got photos, video, plus texts. It turned into quite plenty a slam dunk. Then last night time, I don't know what befell to me. However, the ice grew to become the hearth. She got here domestic past due, of path, and that I do not even don't forget what she stated to me. But I went off. I stated I was hoping it changed into well worth her boss. She became nasty, vindictive. She stated I wasn't there for her emotionally, that I was just lounging all day at domestic despite the fact that I used to be earning the lion's percentage. At home, I wasn't intellectually stimulating. I advised her I had a lawyer, and he or she laughed, pronouncing my bluff turned into pathetic. There has been no way I was leaving her. Even supposing I divorced her, she could get half of my paycheck. If I stayed along with her, at the least I would get to sometimes have intercourse, so I should not mess this up. She changed into a unique character. I said to her, "That's now not a wedding." She laughed once more. "Honey, this is the 21st century. A lady can have her cake and eat it too." She laughed again and went to mattress. I emailed my boss and said I wished per week off to deal with a circle of relatives' trouble. This morning, she left as I was getting dressed and Bess said, "Do not wait up." I went to my legal professional's office, and he said he had the papers geared up. He had a procedure server with him and requested how I desired the papers served. I instructed him. My legal professional, bless him, laughed and stated, "You hire no longer." I have had such a lot of human beings want to do cute or revenge serving, and that I continually speak them out of it. Judges don't have a sense of humor. He instructed me how this may cost me alimony or belongings. I failed to care. Her phrases burned me. I desired her burned back. The legal professional did his first rate to hold telling me not to, but he relented while he noticed how extreme I used to be approximately this. The procedure server heard my idea, laughed, and stated, "You're my hero." I had to unique order something with a rush fee, dispatch the procedure server to choose it up and supply that with the papers to my spouse's paintings. The method server informed me what befell while he became performed. He said he showed up at her office with the big container and papers. He determined my wife speaking and guffawing with a collection of co-people and buddies and requested her call. She showed and asked what it was approximately. He positioned the field on a close-by table and opened it. It became a cake, one which you may get a custom photo printed on. I failed to even know that became an element until this morning. The picture became a photograph of my spouse and her boss in an embody, clothed however obvious what they were doing, with the phrases "he's your cake," consume it piped in icing above the photograph. The procedure server placed the papers subsequent to the cake box on the desk. "You've got been served," he stated. What passed off next became a loud screech from her. At least 8 human beings within the office saw the cake. My wife freaked and swatted the massive cake container off the desk, in which it fell on the carpet, however, with the image nevertheless visible. Numerous of her co-people began berating her, and she started crying and screaming. The process server took a hasty retreat. My cell phone blew up, and that I simply stored, sending her to voicemail. I don't hassle studying her texts. She hasn't come home, but her mother texted me, saying she is going to stay over there for now. The euphoric rush of the cake felt incredible. However, as the hours pass, I am thinking about my lawyer's phrases. Now, did I mess this up? Replace. I'm still off from work. My boss determined to present me weeks instead of the one I asked. Exact guy he's. I have already split our savings in half, positioned my half of in an account in my name, and modified autopay for the loan, credit score playing cards, and so forth. Everything my lawyer counseled me to do with the family price range. Firstly, we have no youngsters. Second, I'm seeing a therapist to assist me. I discovered one that is nicely versed in assisting with infidelity. Visible him twice, and I'm feeling loads more balanced out. Nevertheless, some bizarre low points, but nowhere near the same quantity of swing between the two. After the cake stunt, I'm sincerely taking my lawyer's recommendation on whatever from this point ahead. He stated, "You could be happy or you can be proper," with reference to taking his advice, and I get that now. He advised me that if my spouse wants to return home, I'm not legally allowed to kick her out. However, I should document all interactions along with her. She's not staying at home once more. Nevertheless, at her mom's, but she did need to come back by Saturday to talk. My attorney informed me I could, but stated he might prefer, if she wishes to speak, to have it achieved at his workplace together with her personal legal professional gift as well as himself. I offered this to her in email of path, and she spoke back that she did not have a lawyer. My legal professional stated, barring displaying up at his workplace to have witnesses and report the meeting, I allow my wife recognize this was my situation for speak me with her. She clearly comment. So, I had mutual friends are available. All 3 people with our phones on the table geared up to record. She came in and attempted to give me a clumsy hug, but I simply held my hand up and the telephone started to report because the 4 people sat down on the kitchen table. She changed into honestly apologetic. She stated she felt like she became watching a movie versus being in rate of her lifestyles. However, it felt exciting and with a hurry. She requested if I wanted to realize why. I said I in reality didn't care at this point. She felt that she owed an awful lot to me and informed me. She said that after she began going return to the office while it reopened, she were given absolutely close to a few woman co-employees, every some years older than her, and 2 of them divorced. She said they wormed their way in her head and told her about how she owed extra than she turned into getting. They requested her continuously, approximately, her home lifestyles. The hoop chief apparently changed into psychoanalyzing me from my wife's tales. My spouse instructed them approximately my issue with managers again in my early career, and the ring chief took this to intend I am threatened with the aid of educated humans. The ringleader advised her that I used to be a submissive male and that she wished to take price guy in her life. That if I discovered out, I'd have shouted and threatened, but get in line. My spouse still has her activity, for now, however most effective, just. The folks who noticed the cake have been my spouse, the 3 witches, her affair companion, and consistent with her, 2 other coworkers who were lateral to her. The boss at once ended the affair, informed her to best talk with him via email, and that if she ever tried to reveal up in his office alone, he might name in a co-worker straight away. The 3 witches became on her straight away and publicly berated her for doing such an lousy component. The other co-workers in step with her did not need to get involved with her soap opera, so no document to HR. She stated her 3 buddies doing AA 180 on her right now shook her out of her fog. She appeared virtually ashamed and stated she needed to ask for $5 grand. I was pressured due to the fact there has been cash left in her account. I made it a factor that she had it. She became living along with her mom. She didn't have any important expenses. It turns out the ring chief and the other witches desired to be paid for their silence. They're blackmailing her and giving her a cutoff date. Otherwise, she become pleading for help. I instructed her that there was no going again to ordinary after this. The entirety will trade. That if she bends now, it will likely be extra cash later. First class for her to record herself, her boss, and her co-employees. It might work higher than having sleepless nights looking forward to the knife to fall. She appeared to him and Ha on that, however, did ultimately ask the massive query. I informed her there has been no us. This is accomplished, and he or she great gets herself that lawyer to go over the divorce. The great I'm able to do is tell her how to manage her painting situation. However, she most probably needs to discover some other career after this. I additionally said she desires to visit remedy herself because someone who should move from laughing in my face to pleading for help a week later needs assist sorting themselves out. She mentioned the cake, and all I said to that changed into, yeah, and I am seeing someone for that. She left quickly after that. No word on whether she will be able to follow my recommendation or try to pay her co-employees blackmail. Final replace. First week lower back at paintings, and my boss determined to inform everybody we ought to get off at noon today for True Friday. I'm doing plenty higher. I am nevertheless seeing in-person therapist. Last weekend, I drove out into the rural roads to unwind and saw a dog breeder as I used to be using by means of and was curious, so I finished in. He was an Asian fellow and had a breed of Asian dogs I've in no way seen before. He began telling me about how they had been extremely loyal and brave. After playing with some of them, I'm thinking about going back to shop for one, even if they may be extraordinarily highly priced. I agree with they may be known as does. The wife usually entertained getting a dog, however, in no way located a breed she preferred. Anyway, the spouse nonetheless has not moved lower back in or made any direct tries to contact, however, did get a legal professional. My lawyer referred to as me and stated something like, buckle up, you're going to go to a marriage counselor. I said I didn't want to see one. The divorce changed into going on regardless of what. He agreed, but then said normally, I would inform the other attorney to pound sand, but now I must paint you as an affordable man or woman, so that you need to entertain affordable requests. This is why you ought to pay attention for your lawyer. If I held back my anger, I'd have been able to forget about this request. He did give me recommendation for this session. Don't admit fault, don't concede I failed anywhere, don't agree to anything, not even a second consultation. Simply attend this session, and if I wanted to nonetheless divorce, solution questions as neutrally as possible. Do not yell, don't shout, don't accuse. The go-to, if it can be known as that, changed into via Zoom, me in my home, my spouse in her mom's home, and the counselor in what seemed to be an office. It became exciting. The counselor became interested in spreading blame. In reality, you may see how distance could create a need. I truly stated, I do not agree. It takes two people to create a rift in a marriage. Yeah, she and her boss. Protecting directly to this is staying within the past. There might be a remarkable future. Past conduct is a superb indicator of future conduct. Stuff like that. I would not fake for a 2D that I performed thoughts video games or ran circles around her, because I didn't. I simply failed to have interaction extra than I needed to. It became 2 hours of her and my wife just looking to make me take even 10% of the blame, so she could say, see, it was each of you, your faults now, permits rebuild, or something like that. Near the cease of the session, the counselor requested me why I was performing so bloodless. I stated something along the strains of, did you know infidelity can create the equal intellectual harm as PTSD? The counselor stated, I heard something like that earlier than sure. The consultation's time became running out, and I was approximately to signal out while my spouse requested if I was good with attending any other session next weekend. I stated I did not think that changed into a very good concept. She then begged what it would take for me to comply with a consultation next weekend. I said, good night. and signed off. Now, I'm just ready to look what the next affordable request is that I cannot flip down in order that my legal professional can paint the photograph that I am a well-adjusted man who had one outburst of awful conduct versus a trend of awful conduct. Unfortunately, this changed into the closing update earlier than the consumer stopped posting. He hasn't posted any extra updates regarding this tale. If any future updates come into this story, I'm able to make any other video on it, so make sure to subscribe and if possible, hit the like button.